boys and girls. I'm going to read to you a story today that is called Sonia Sotomayor. She was a judge who grew up in the Bronx. Okay, so look at the title of this book. What do you think this story is going to be about? Just by looking at the title, Sonia Sotomayor, I want you to take a guess as to what this story is going to be about. And then think, what is the author's purpose? What does the author want me to know about Sonia Sotomayor? And while we're thinking about the author's purpose, think about what genre would this story be? Could it be fiction, nonfiction, realistic fiction, historical fiction? I wonder which fiction or genre would this story be? Okay. Look at the beautiful pictures that are in this book. The flowers, the colorful buildings. I wonder where this story is taking place. What could be the setting of this story? So if I'm thinking about the setting of a story, and I actually see illustrations, it's most likely going to be a fiction story. So anytime you see a story that has pictures or colorful pictures, it's going to be a fiction story. So let's determine what type of fiction this will be. So let's read on about Sonia Sotomayor. You never know what can happen. Sometimes the most beautiful moonflower blossoms in an unexpected place. On a chain-linked fence near broken glass next to an abandoned building. Watered by someone whose name you may not ever know. Look at the beautiful illustration of Sonia Sotomayor as a child, most likely around school age. And sometimes the most amazing person blossoms to just such a place as well. So it was with a little girl named Sonia. Her blossoming began with her mother's love and hard work. Still looking at the illustrations in this book. Can you determine what type of fiction this is? Oh, how Sonia's mother loved her. She worked night and day and night as a switchboard operator, just so she could pay for Sonia's and her brother's private schools. She had never made it past the 3rd grade when she was a girl, but she sure wanted her children. They lived in public housing project in a part of New York called the South Bronx, a place where most people had precious little money, and Sonia's family was no different, with only their mother to support them. This is Sonia, her mom, and her brother. Ooh, look at Sonia sleeping. When Sonia's mother wasn't cooking or working, she was studying, as you can see here. She wanted to become a nurse so she could make better wages and help her children even more. While Sonia slept, sometimes her mother stayed up until midnight, doing her homework. There was nothing she would not do to help Sonia or her brother. Can you infer what is happening on this page? Sonia loved the world her mother gave her. Her mother and father were from Puerto Rico, and Sonia grew up surrounded by the taste and sounds of Puerto Rican culture. A favorite meal was Spanish rice and beans. That sounds yummy. And she loved the big family parties, fiestas, where merengue music filled the air. Arriba. Ooh. On Saturday nights, Sonia's family and friends would get together. While the grown-ups sat in one room playing dominoes, Sonia and her cousins played Loteria. Oh, I love Loteria. I think I only won one time, but I love the game. A Latin American bingo game. Sonia's abuelita would shout out the numbers while the grandkids marked their cards with chickpeas. Sonia's family surrounded her like a warm blanket. How many of you all like to play Loteria or perhaps bingo? Kid-friendly though. And she was also surrounded by books, school books, library books, and a set of encyclopedias. Her mother had saved all her pennies and nickels and dimes to buy. And when the schoolwork was done, they were her favorite books, the Nancy Drew mystery novels. Nancy Drew was a girl detective who was always on the go, solving crimes. She was unstoppable. That's who Sonia wanted to be. But then something happened that made her change her mind. When she was only 8, her doctor set her down and told her some bad news. She had a disease called diabetes. Have you ever heard of diabetes, boys and girls? Or do you know someone who has diabetes? Well, she has it at the age of 8. If you have diabetes, you have to take several shots of medicine a day for the rest of your life. So maybe she wouldn't be Nancy Drew, but that didn't mean she couldn't be unstoppable. Her favorite TV show was Perry Mason, about a courtroom lawyer. One episode with the image of a judge, the most powerful person in the courtroom. A light bulb went on above Sonia's head, and she knew she would become a judge. Becoming a judge, though, that's not easy. Sonia knew she had to get really good grades to become a judge. So while other kids may have been goofing off, Sonia was studying at her mother's kitchen table year after year after year after year. Can you see Sonia up there studying? What type of fiction is this? It paid off. By the time she graduated high school, she had won an award for being the very best student in her whole school. What an honor. You can't imagine how proud her mother was. This was her daughter, her Sonia. Abito, what an honor. See Sonia at her graduation? Sonia's grades were so good that she was accepted at one of the very best colleges in America, Princeton. How many of us ever heard of Princeton University? Well, that's what Sonia was accepted to. This too was an honor. But Princeton was not the Bronx. Where were these subways? Where was the merengue music? Which she truly loved. Where were the people who looked like her? For the first time in her life, Sonia felt scared and shy and very out of place, almost like she was on a different planet. During her first week, she heard a cricket in her dorm room, and it scared her. What was this strange insect? As it turns out, it wasn't in her room, but on a tree outside her room. Growing up in a project, Sonia never had a tree outside her window. She would become the head of a club for the handful of Latino students at Princeton. She would push herself to her limits, studying day and night, night and day, at the library and graduate with the highest honors of any student in her class. Success comes to those who make the most of the chances they are offered in life. Sonia did become a judge, and a good judge too. She was known for working very hard and always being very prepared for trial, every trial that is. She was also known for having no patience for lawyers who weren't prepared. You better not mess with Judge Sonia. Yet she was known for much more than this. Unlike many judges, she had grown up in poverty. She had grown up as Niña Rican, a child of Puerto Rican parents. She had seen things most of the judges had not. People she'd grown up with had gone to jail. People she'd grown up with were poor, and many of them weren't as lucky as she had been. They'd had trouble learning to speak English, trouble finding jobs. Unlike many judges, she knew firsthand what prejudice was, what it was to be judged for, your background. In the role of judges, this made Sonia very special. Oh, but Sonia, the very special judge, did not stop there. No. You see, Sonia was offered the chance of a lifetime, boys and girls. She was invited to the White House by none other than President Barack Obama, because President Obama had decided to nominate Sonia to do the best job a judge could possibly have. Do you know what that is? It is to be a Supreme Court justice. Justice is a fancy word for a judge. The Supreme Court is the highest court in the nation. Supreme Court decisions help shape the law of the land. This was huge. There had never been a Latin American on the Supreme Court. How strange was this? There are so many people of Mexican, Puerto Rican, Dominican, and Cuban descent, adding color to the great garden that is America. Why shouldn't all these people have someone who understands their lives on the Supreme Court? She was one of the most respected judges in the country. She was the perfect choice. This was an honor beyond anything Sonia, and all of her beautiful flowering, had ever imagined. But at the announcement ceremony, Sonia spoke about her mother rather than herself. I have often said that I am all I am because of her, and I am only half the woman she is. Then, speaking straight to her mother in the audience, she said, I thank you for all that you have given me and continue to give me. Her mother cried and cried. This was her daughter. It was over though, or it wasn't over. There was some bumps on the path to the Supreme Court. She had a broken ankle, which didn't slow her down one bit. Oh, I wonder who that man is. And angry people calling Sonia names like racist, just because she was proud to be a Latin judge. And she was not ashamed to say it. And days of tough questions from a panel of 19 senators, a row of white faces, most of them male. But this didn't stop her. Nothing could stop her, boys and girls. Sonia, the dynamo from the Bronx, from making history as the nation's first Latin American Supreme Court justice. Ah, Benito, you never know what can happen, especially when you water a flower. Now, boys and girls, just like the question I asked you before, can you determine now what genre is this? Well, let me help you. This is actually a fiction story only because the illustrations are cartoonish, but it is a historical fiction because it's of a real person and the history of Sonia Sotomayor. I hope you enjoy this reading and happy reading.